All right, B, we're back in studio now. After WindUp, crowd-wise, I think it was definitely like the boots, beards, beers kind of crowd, you know? So there was like a big everyday carry, EDC kind of vibe in there. They had non-watch stuff as well. But as far as like general themes, we saw a lot of integrated bracelet stuff, and we saw a lot of Rolex-looking kind of watches, right?
Or other brands looking kind of watches. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Which on one level is a little bit too easy, let's say. But I think from the brand's perspective, I think, you know, if you're starting a micro brand, you need kind of instant sales to recoup that investment. So maybe that's the strategy there. It's like you need something that's instantly marketable, that has visual recognition, I guess. There were a lot that looked very similar to a Nautilus.
Some of the micro brands that we saw, and I'm not going to say any names, were like really good original designs, and they're known for those original designs. And others were kind of, as you said, a little bit Patek-ish, a little bit Rolex-ish. And I think those brands, I mean, it's cool, but then if I want to buy this one, I'll buy the real one. Now, of course, you can argue whether you want a sub for 9 or 10 grand versus a sub looking whatever for 2 grand or 3 grand.
Yeah, like Citizen had like a Pepsi essentially.
For example, yeah. But there are brands like Autodromo, which has been very original from the beginning.
Yeah, well, I think that's what separates the best from the rest, right? Just sticking to the topic of integrated bracelets, I think the best two, in my opinion, would be Brew and Autodromo. I think both were, so Brew has their Mecha Quartz, I believe it's the Metrograph, and then they also have an automatic, like limited edition, very 1970s time only one. So they're much more in like the 70s kind of camp. And then Autodromo went full 80s rally Group B with a Group B integrated bracelet watch. And those ones felt very true to the brand, didn't look like copy of a Genta watch, you know? Yeah, it's different when you like have a vintage model and you're kind of reviving that. Even if it wasn't super original at the time, there's still a little bit more heritage component there than saying starting a brand in 2021 and getting as close as you can to that Genta DNA.
Yeah, well, that's my point. Like if you're in a micro brand, you should aim for something that's not a copy. And we talked about Genta, but there are other micro brands taking inspiration from other brands, like Pateks, vintage Pateks.
Furlan Marri is obviously very Patek inspired, but I would say they veered just far enough away where it's taking inspiration instead of trying to make something identical. It's inspired by, but not identical to, let's say.
No, it's not identical, absolutely not.
So they were, whereas, and it's a fine line kind of thing. A lot of the integrated bracelet stuff just felt like way too close to a Nautilus for me, like on purpose, by design. Whereas I think at least Furlan Marri kind of took that Patek DNA and like, at least took a step or two away, you know, and did their own thing.
Okay, fair enough.
Baltic was another big player that we saw.
And to me, Baltic is very similar in a lot of ways than Furlan Marri in terms of size, case shape, maybe even certain design aspects. But they're definitely moved away or, well, expanded their collection quite a bit, actually. And they had a pretty big stand, like it was like a corner stand, and it was, they really had a lot of watches on display.
They had like 6 models at least,
Yes.
And then Furlan Marri had 2 or 3.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
What other kind of trends did you notice as we were walking around?
High horology, inspired timepieces.
Yeah, what about it?
Or were those high horology inspired timepieces, or were those actually high horology? What do you think?
Yeah, a little bit of both. A little bit of both. As far as high horology inspired brands, I think you have like Xeric, which was down in the basement. That was like doing their MB and F kind of thing.
Yes.
I think there's a place for that. I think it's fun. They're quirky, and we say NB and F like because it's just like weird out there watches. But it's not akin to like, they're not hewing as close to like a Nautilus copy or a G&T copy. It was just like in the same solar system as NB and F.
Yeah. And I think what's common between those two is that obviously they are not taking themselves too serious. Or the idea behind the watch design is just like, let's have fun and see what we can
Compared to the other booths there, where it was like a lot of everyday carry kind of stuff, where it's like, this watch is super tough, it's got great lume, versus Xeric, which is like, we're here to have fun, we have cool watches. I bet you've never seen this kind of thing before.
And then when we talk about Christopher Ward, we talk about high horology, the one model that stands out, but it's definitely Belcanto.
Definitely.
I've seen the watch, obviously, but this is the first time I've actually had the chance to touch it and try it on.
Which makes a big difference.
Big difference, huge difference. So we're talking about like a sub $4,000 dollar, euro, doesn't matter watch. On a strap, I think on a bracelet it's between 4 and 5.
Yeah, they had both. They're definitely running with this as
Yeah.
kind of a seminal model.
Yeah, you can argue 5,000 is not a cheap watch, but it's not high horology.
Yeah, so it's an hour chime watch. It looks a bit like a minute repeater, but whereas a minute repeater is on demand,
Yes.
An hour chime is once an hour, the gong will strike. So if you're wrapping up a meeting, let's say, you'll hear a ding and you say, oh, it's 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, yeah.
You can also do it on command as
Yeah.
well with a button, which is if you want to show someone at a party.
No, absolutely. And they had a bunch of strap options, bracelet option, ton of colors.
Yeah, very like Moser S dials as well.
Yes.
Like kind of fume, like
Yes.
blues, purples.
What was interesting is how light the case was.
Yes.
Because the watch was like 42, I'm not sure exactly.
It's sizable, yeah.
So it's pretty big, but it's not heavy because titanium, obviously.
It wears well. So yeah, the titanium definitely helps, and there's a lot of negative space in there as well.
Yeah.
So it looks like there's a lot going on, but it's not adding a lot of weight to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other kind of high horology-ish brand, or the brand that was going into that territory, was Yema.
Yeah.
They had, among other watches, a tourbillon model, which I thought was interesting.
Yes.
And I think it's less designed for actual sales. I don't think they're making a lot or expecting to sell a lot. I think it's more about brand image and just showing that they can do it.
Yeah, it was almost when we went to the booth and we saw the integrated bracelet watch and the tourbillon, they were next to each other, right? It almost felt like you're looking at two different brands because the design is totally different. The integrated bracelet watch, they have obviously an in-house movement just like the tourbillon, but it's a very different design. It's a much smaller watch, the green dial, micro rotor movement, and then you have this big, shiny black dial, steel and bronze case.
Yes.
Tourbillons next to each other. They almost look like they don't belong to the same brand.
You shoot one watch way up to the top to kind of hopefully bring everything, to give everything else a lift, let's say. But I think it's more of a long-term brand image kind of thing, brand reputation, where you show what you're capable of, and then it makes everything else look more prestigious and I guess more reasonable in price as well. Let's talk about watches you might actually want to buy. You've got 3, I've got 3. What's yours?
Okay. Bulova midships, ultra deep Benrus, Belcanto's Christopher Ward.
Okay, I'm going to do Belcanto as well. Baltic Hermetique, specifically in the sand color. Third is one of the new G-Shocks, the blacked out one with the inverse display.
Nice. Very versatile collection, huh?
So we just talked about the Belcanto. I think that case proves itself. Let's move on to your other 2.
Yeah, Bulova, I like the Devil Diver, the GMT, the new GMT version. I've had the chance of reviewing the Devil Diver. It's a great watch, vintage or modern. GMT is cool, but I like the kind of, I think you can say that Blancpain-esque midships, which was the gentleman kindly explained that this is a watch that they never made. It was a prototype, right? It never went into production, but then they found the actual prototype and they found the papers and then they just produced it after that. And it's a very interesting watch. It's super cool.
So the push-in bezel, which was interesting.
Yeah, and the super small lug width. Remember, it's like a big case, but the lug width is it's like 14, 15 maybe. So I like that watch. I like the story. The bezel was cool. The overall look is nice. It's not much more expensive than a Blancpain Swatch watch or a Swatch Pain or Blanc watch, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And I would much rather buy this than that, to be honest. It's about $400. This is about $700+.
They took a lot of the same boxes, yeah.
Yeah. And then the last watch I like to get is the Benrus Ultra Deep compressor case. It's a very classical compressor case design with the 2 crowns. You can get it on a strap, you can get it on a bracelet. This is one that looks good on a NATO strap, one of your favorites. It's a diver, it's a black dial. I believe it's about 36 millimeters. It's just like a very clean dial, very clean design, rotating inner bezel, simple, elegant, cool diver. And we're talking about $1,000 or so, I think $1,100 or something like that. And for that, I think it's just a lot of watch for the money.
Speaking of a lot of watch for the money, we had the Belcanto right at the top. I think that was possibly, what we would say is probably the best in show.
Absolutely, yeah.
I would say my second one was the Baltic Hermetique, which is their new field watch that just came out. I'd seen a few different colors. The sand one was particularly appealing for me. It's this color you're seeing more from brands like IWC. Hermes did their HO8 in that color. You have the Jupiter Moon Swatch, for example.
Yeah,
Or-
good.
I think it's a color worth exploring more from other brands, and that watch in particular is fantastic. It's an incredible size. You have those big blocky numerals that add a lot of dimension to it as well. The loom is pretty strong. The straps are
Strap is
great.
good.
Yeah, it's got that like very supple tropic leather,
Yeah.
which takes color very well. So it really echoed that sand incredibly. Like a lot of watches I would buy and then change the strap. That one I wouldn't dare. I think it's perfect. as
No,
is.
it's great, and it's kind of funny because the watch is more dressy, whereas the strap is more sporty, right? Because it's more, as you said, it's more of a tropic strap. But they kind of complement each other, rather than giving you this odd feel of why is a dress watch on a rubber strap. And then they also do it in olive green, which was probably my favorite color.
Yeah.
And they do it in blue.
There's a blue and then I think a maroon-ish
Yeah.
as well, or maybe like a brownish kind of thing.
Yeah. What's your last one?
We also went by G-Shock, which is probably has one of the biggest distributions. You know, it's not a micro brand, let's say.
No.
So they had a lot of new G-Shocks. They had the new like Ed Sheeran one. They had a lot of new like health-focused ones.
Yes.
And the one that stuck out to me, I believe, was one of the health-focused ones. So there are like little sensors on the back that get your vitals and things like that. But what I loved most was actually the design standpoint and the inverse display, the LCD that they had.
Goes back to like the first G-Shocks, right? Design-wise.
Yep.
And they also have like a gray, which I quite like. So it's definitely interesting to see what G-Shock is doing with this smart watch, kind of tool watch, cheap watch. It's not cheap. It's like a $300+ watch. Compared to a G-Shock, it's a bit more pricey.
Sure, but compared to an Apple Watch, it's not bad at all.
And it gives you a lot of features as well. Yeah.
And I think that is part of the appeal to a consumer. You know, for a guy like me, like I'm a watch guy. I don't have anything against the Apple Watch, but I don't like really want to wear one or like maybe be seen wearing one, to be honest. So I still, you know, if I do want to get those health stats, I can do that in another way that's more true to who I am and what I want to project out in the world, and not just have another Apple Watch.
Yeah.
That's enough out of us. Drop a comment below because this is such a community thing. Let us know what was a hit and what did we miss. Our watch time video is live. Be sure to check that out now. This is Balazs Ferenczi. I'm Thomas Hendricks for 2024. We'll see you next time.